The jungle was never truly silent. Even in the dead of night, when the moon cast its ghostly glow upon the treetops, the whispers of unseen creatures filled the air. In the heart of this endless green wilderness, where tangled vines choked the ground and ancient trees loomed like silent sentinels, something stirred beneath the earth. Something that had remained hidden for centuries. Arjun had always known the jungle held secrets. As a researcher specializing in cryptic species, he had spent years uncovering forgotten truths buried within the wild. But nothing could have prepared him for what lay beneath the soil of this forsaken land. He arrived with his team, eager to study an unusual phenomenon: massive colonies of ants behaving erratically, forming intricate patterns across the forest floor. Reports spoke of a strange presence near the old ruins, whispers carried by the wind, and animals that vanished without a trace. It began with the ground. As they set up camp near an ancient, crumbling temple overtaken by vines, Arjun noticed the earth shifting beneath his feet. At first, it was subtle, a ripple in the soil as though something was breathing below. The ants moved in a synchronized pattern, spiraling outward from a single point, their tiny bodies glistening in the moonlight like moving shadows. But what truly sent a shiver down his spine was the silence that followed. The jungle, which had been alive with chirps, rustling leaves, and distant roars, fell into an unnatural stillness. Not a single bird cried. Not a single leaf trembled. And then came the first scream. Raj, one of the expedition members, had ventured deeper into the ruins, searching for signs of wildlife. His cry was cut short, strangled by something unseen. Arjun and the others ran towards the sound, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. They found Raj lying in the dirt, his eyes wide with terror, his body stiff as if he had been frozen mid-motion. His lips moved, but no words came out, only a choking guttural rasp. The jungle was no longer just a place of untamed wilderness. It had become a nightmare. Raj's lifeless body twitched unnaturally as the monstrous ants swarmed him, their dark bodies shimmering under the cold moonlight. The chasm in the earth exhaled a foul breath, carrying the scent of something ancient, something hungry. Arjun and his team stood frozen, their minds struggling to comprehend what they were witnessing. The ground beneath them trembled as if the jungle itself was stirring from a deep slumber. Then, before anyone could react, Raj's body was dragged into the pit, his lifeless form swallowed whole by the darkness below. A deafening silence followed. Then came the hissing. It started as a low, whisper-like sound, echoing from the abyss. The darkness within the pit writhed, shifting as something enormous moved beneath the surface. Arjun staggered backward, his breathing ragged. Something was down there. Something beyond human understanding. "Run!" Mira, one of the expedition members, screamed, snapping everyone out of their trance. The group turned and bolted, crashing through the undergrowth. The jungle, once still, now seemed alive with movement. Shadows slithered between the trees, and the ground trembled with an unnatural pulse. The air grew heavy, thick with something unseen, something watching. Arjun's heart pounded as he sprinted through the dense foliage. He could hear something following them, something vast and serpentine, slithering just beyond the edge of their vision. Then Mira shrieked. The others turned just in time to see her being lifted into the air by something unseen. Her body jerked violently as if gripped by invisible coils. Her screams were strangled, suffocated by an unseen force constricting around her throat. Her eyes widened in terror as she gasped for air, clawing at her own skin. And then the ants came. They poured from the trees, from the soil, from the very air itself. They crawled up her limbs, their sharp mandibles sinking into her flesh. A sickening crunch echoed through the jungle as her body twisted unnaturally, her screams fading into a gurgling sound. In mere moments she was gone, consumed by the living nightmare that surrounded them. Arjun grabbed Vikram's arm, pulling him forward. "We have to get out of here," he gasped. But Vikram was staring wide-eyed at the jungle ahead. His hands trembled, pointing toward something in the distance. A figure stood there. It was human, or at least it once was. Its skin was cracked and blackened like ancient bark. Its eyes were hollow voids, filled with an inky darkness that swallowed all light. It stood unnaturally still, its head tilted in an eerie, lifeless manner. The jungle whispered around it, a voice that was not a voice, a chorus of hissing and clicking sounds that sent ice through Arjun's veins. Then the figure moved. It took a step forward, its joints creaking like old wood. And then another. The jungle floor pulsed beneath it, as if it was an extension of the very earth itself. Vikram let out a strangled cry and turned to run, but it was too late. The ground opened up beneath him. He barely had time to scream before he was pulled down, his body vanishing into the pit with a sickening crunch. The jungle swallowed him whole. Arjun stumbled backward, his mind racing. This was no ordinary jungle, no ordinary horror. It was alive. It had been waiting, and now it had awakened.